Hello, 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 and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, I am Kyla Ariel, and this is where all things lifestyle, becoming the best version of you, and doing so in a way that feels most authentic to who you are, come together as one. Before we dive in, y'all, I have a request. Do not forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video or my channel in general if you feel like it resonates. I can be transparent with y'all. We're friends. It's the end of the year and I have a very clear goal of reaching monetization status on YouTube by the end of 2023 as we enter 2024. And I can candidly say that this platform, just being consistent on it the past couple months, like it just feels so in alignment with the content that I'm creating, the content that I want to create, and I can't believe I didn't join it sooner. And so that is where that call to action for you to subscribe truly comes from. And I can't wait to continue to create this type of content, and also just don't want you to miss out on these weekly uploads because we consistent around here, okay? I might tease at the end of this conversation some content to come, or like what our plans are before we wrap up this year and enter the new year, but we'll get to that later. Listen, I'm excited to chat today. I think last time we talked, I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna call these pep talks or chit chats, whatever they are. It's giving more of a chit chat vibe. Like I'm a chit chat girly. I'm not like a pep talk, right? Like I want you to walk away feeling encouraged for sure. But it's very much like conversational. Like these are conversations that aren't just like me talking at you, but they're either things that I've experienced and feel super passionate about, or know that they're very popular topics happening in our world today. And so I'm just really excited to talk. You know, get your drink, your lunch, whatever, your glass of water, because we stay hydrated around here, and get comfortable, okay? Because part forever of me being in your business, because today we're talking becoming that girl, or record scratch, you're already that girl. If you are familiar with the topic or the trend of becoming that girl on social right now, then you already know what I'm talking about. But if you are not, then you know that the idea of becoming that girl typically is talked about in the way of like plussing up your life or adding something to yourself. A lot of the conversation is around like materialistic things, consumerism, truthfully, even like maintenance and how frequent, you get things done from like a self-care, but definitely like a vanity point of view. And even sometimes adopting mindsets and ways of thinking that are so far apart from who you really are. And I really want to talk about this topic specifically because as we go into the new year, individuality and leaning into what sets us apart as people, as who we were created to be, it's going to be so important. And I'm not here to be like, I can see the future, I know it's coming, and no, none of that. But I can feel that being the people that we were created to be and leaning into our differences, leaning into what makes us unique, that is what being that girl is all about, because it'll never be on you, okay? It's always going to be in you. And so what we're going to talk about today has nothing to do with what you can begin to possess externally. Like if that is the conversation that you are here for, I'm sorry. We're not talking about it, but I encourage you to stick around because I know it will be worthwhile. And separately from this, because the social strategist in me is coming out, the hashtag becoming her is viewed something like 312 million times on TikTok, okay? And the hashtag that girl is viewed 17 billion times, if I'm correct, on TikTok. And that just goes to show that the conversation is happening, okay? People are subscribing to this conversation. It's not just me. It's not just you. And I'm not here to say that, oh, this is the way that you become that girl the correct way, right? I'm not here to say that if you're having the conversation and you're talking about XYZ, then you're doing it wrong. Absolutely not. But I just want us to be mindful of how we think about ourselves in the light of being enough, in the light of comparing ourselves to others, in the light of how we show up in our day-to-day. I think that we just need to be a little bit more intentional about what that looks like. And I also just want to remind you that you are enough. Like you are that girl. It's already within you. And I can't wait to unpack that practically, because y'all know I'm gonna give you tangible steps to walk away with, because that's my thing. Like if you've been a part of this community long enough, since I've started like 3 months ago, couldn't wait to say that. But if you've been a part of this community long enough, then you know that it's all about like applicable self-life application conversations that, allow you to walk away feeling like there are things that you can literally implement today or the next day. You know what I mean? And it's nothing that you need to go out and buy or purchase, right? Or work really hard to get. Like, yes, life is hard work, but it's all about, again, becoming the better version of you and doing so in a way that feels authentic to who you are. So the topic of becoming that girl, I think what feels a little more sensitive to me, truthfully, is that I am seeing more of the like becoming her conversation be very popular in the Black community, or especially for like women of color. And as a Black woman, I feel comfortable enough to talk about this. But I do think that that's another reason why I feel super passionate about this topic, because a lot of what becoming her seems to look like are things that we need to possess externally. And if there's anything we know about our culture, there are so many beautiful things about our culture to honor and love and celebrate. But there is an ingrained idea within us that comes from beyond who we even are, beyond who the life that we walk today, that encourages us that we're not enough and we have to show up as something different to be seen as credible in order to be validated. And that's another reason why I wanted to talk about this today, because I'm sick of it. Truthfully, like, I'm sick and tired. And I know there's many other people who probably can relate. So with that being said, we're going to dive in and we're going to get into it. The first area that I want to talk about specifically is ridding ourselves of perfectionism. When I was like just out of when I was just out of undergrad or post-undergrad, there was this like very intentional battle that I had with perfectionism. And I remember really like, that's when the word perfectionism also really became popular. But I remember wanting to be over it. Like, I wanted it out of my life. And truthfully, I still deal with perfectionism today. But you'll never forget that moment where you first recognize that something is an issue, or like a mindset is no longer serving you. And that was one of them. And I think for us as, growing, maturing women who are wanting to lean more into the better version of ourselves, right? So that we can show up as her. I think a lot of it is really understanding that we don't have to have it perfect to be validated or to be good enough at something. I think a lot of times we expect to be the expert at something in order to like start something new, or in order to show up in certain communities, whether it be in the workspace or in friend groups, or, if we're working on a new project that we feel really excited about and maybe we're a little timid to talk about it because we aren't experts in that field just yet. I think leaning into understanding that perfectionism is maybe a blocker or a roadblock is the quickest way to understand that, like, I don't have to show up as perfect to just be myself, to just be seen as enough. And I think for me personally, where perfection really stood out was this idea, or this like chip that I carried on my shoulder, that I had to have it all together at all times. And y'all, that is exhausting. And I think that a narrative that the becoming her, an idea that the becoming her narrative pushes, is that you have to have it all together at all times. You have to dress a certain way. You have to look a certain way. You have to think a certain way to have confidence, to be seen, to, for others to perceive you as confident. And that's just like unrealistic. And I really wanted to get rid of that in my own life. And that was actually one of the reasons I even started my original blog, The Minor Detail, which is now the podcast. But I wanted to restore honesty in a world full of perfection. We show up on social media every day being the best version of ourselves, right? From a highlight reel standpoint, what is going on in our lives that feels good? What big moment just happened that I can capture photos or now videos of, that I can share with the world to show them like, hey, I'm doing great over here. I'm doing good. Like, life is perfect. Life is good, right? That has been shoved down our throats for so long that it feels natural, but I think at our core, it feels very unnatural. I'm sure, like, if we had a real conversation right now, if y'all were sitting with me in a room and we were having a conversation, we could all agree that pressure is so undesirable. Like, I feel myself personally shifting out of a lot of different mindsets, and truthfully, God is just working on me and refining my heart, like refining it. But there is a lot of things that I'm just no longer interested in if it doesn't allow me to show up as who I am in this season. And I think ridding perfectionism is like truly, I won't call it the first step, but it's an area that we can look at and recognize like this is no longer serving me, because I don't want to show up like I have it all together all the time. It's really unnecessary. And I think not having that level of understanding within yourself also creates a barrier when you're operating with other people, right? If you feel like you have to have it all together, now you have that expectation that the next person, needs to have it all together as well, whether it's a friend or in a relationship, right? Now we're having all of these unrealistic expectations about ourselves needing to be perfect and the people that we operate with on a day-to-day basis needing to be perfect. And I just don't love that for us. And I don't love the idea that we have to have it all together, because we're truly not perfect people. We'll never have it all together. We'll never have all of the information. We'll never be the expert. And it's okay to lack in certain areas and still be the better version of yourself. I was listening to a sermon recently, actually this week, where it talks about, he talked about basically like my limp from yesterday, or the thing that may have felt like a weakness yesterday got me to where I am today. And you don't have to take those areas or those weaknesses with you to a new day and to a new thing. And basically how that translated for me was like, I'm constantly learning every day, and that's allowing me to grow into a stronger version of myself. But it also allows room for me to give grace in the areas where I am still lacking moving forward, because at some point I will become those things, or at some point I will learn those things and be able to apply it. And this idea that we need to be perfect, or we need to be that girl, or we need to become something entirely different than who we are, it stifles our true purpose and who God truly called and created us to be. Another practical way for tapping into your already existing that girl energy, okay? Because it exists, it's internal. And this is, again, not to be confused with externally, truly understanding that what you possess is already enough. And when I say that, I don't mean like frou-frou, high level, like I am enough, which you are, but I genuinely mean look around you. Look at the things that you have access to. Look at the resources that exist in your life right now. When you feel the urge to need to go and add something new to your life, genuinely ask yourself, do I need this to like be who I am? Is this something that is required of me for me to be who I am on a day-to-day basis? And I think, again, a lot of what the becoming that girl rhetoric kind of pushes are more of those like physical, external appearance things, but also like I mentioned before earlier in the conversation, materialistic things as well. And I think a lot of times we're truly kidding ourselves if we believe that we need all of these materialistic things. Right now, I am truly not battling, that's dramatic. But right now, I'm truly like confronting myself when it comes to consumerism specifically and overconsumption of things. I think a lot of times when we get ideas or we want to, we want to try something new, we feel like we have to have like a new thing to get started, right? Like let's say, for example, my YouTube channel. In order for me to get started, I need all the best equipment. I need all the best, lighting and audio and camera, the best setup. I need it to feel and look a certain way to get started. And I think that the reason why pushing like consumption and buying new things is so dangerous, because we truly don't need all that, right? Like if we were to think about it from the perspective of starting something new, like a YouTube channel, for example, what you possess, like what you would be communicating and talking to your audience about, that's literally already within you. Everything else is just external and it's experiential, and sure, it provides an elevated experience. But if your content and what you have to say is on point and targeted for who you want to reach, it will get to them regardless. And I think the reason why I feel like pushing like the consumption and idea that we need to gain new material things, I think it's a distraction. I think it's a distraction from addressing the real internal things that we do possess, whether they be good or bad, right? I feel like those are different examples, but I want to lean into this second one a little bit more, because I think that we feel like outwardly it will fix everything when internally it won't really do a thing. Sure, it might get you some more compliments, or it might make you feel a little better, but that'll be very short term. We all love being a hair done, for example, but that has nothing to do with how we feel internally. Like, it's an external thing. And it's not to say, again, that any of that stuff is wrong, because I'm gonna keep my hair done, I'm gonna keep my lashes done, like I'm gonna keep my nails done, for example. But I'm at a point in my life where I'm understanding that, one, I am not over emphasizing on those things from a financial standpoint where it is affecting me in other areas of my life. That's very important. We can unpack that at a later date. But two, I'm not using those things to cope with areas that I might be hurting internally. And I think it's really important to just be thinking about whether or not we're trying to use external things to address internal things that are going on. And again, it's just a reminder that what you possess internally is already enough. And that honestly leads me to my last point of really tapping internally into, I'm gonna keep emphasizing this, but internally into, what becoming her and being that girl looks like, but truly showing up for yourself. Have you asked yourself this year, what do I need to thrive? What do I need to show up for myself? Have you asked yourself that question? If so, amazing. If not, there's still time. Like, again, like I mentioned and will continue to mention, we'll never run out of opportunity to do so. But I think it's important to understand how you need to show up for yourself, because it invites you into a level of self-awareness that you would need to have to understand, like, this actually does not serve me. Becoming that girl in this way, that does not make sense to me, because I genuinely don't want that for myself. And I think that showing up for yourself and self-awareness go hand in hand, because self-awareness is a different level of advocating for yourself, that when we tap into self-awareness, we are literally so powerful. And I think a lot of times, like, I wouldn't call doing the work of being self-aware hard, but I think it does require a moment of separating yourself and sitting with yourself to truly understand, like, what are the things that make me happy? What are the things that make me sad? What are the things that I want to do better at or be better at? How do I want to show up for the people around me to be better for them, right? And there's just a lot of distractions. There's just a lot of things that are going on where maybe we don't feel as enthusiastic about separating ourselves and really getting to that point. And I think for me, truthfully, I know a part of my self-awareness journey, I feel like I was naturally a self-aware person, but a big part of my journey has definitely come from therapy. And I will always encourage y'all on this platform to give therapy a try if you've never done so, because I think it allows you, number one, to just have an unbiased opinion, to unpack things that are happening in your life, but to also hear yourself literally speak about things that are happening in your life and have someone help you recognize those areas that might be weaker points, or even might be your strengths. And so understanding things like your strengths and weaknesses are a clear indication of self-awareness. And so I think that as it relates to becoming that girl, you're able to identify the things, like I mentioned before, the things that help you lean into your individuality. Like, that is what becoming her looks like. What makes me different as an individual? Like, what do I bring to the table that is different and unique than the next person? And how can I leverage that to become the better version of myself that I was meant to be? Like, not my favorite creator on TikTok, although, you might love her style, or you might take into consideration skincare or makeup recommendations. Absolutely. But not to completely replicate a person and to completely become someone that you were never created to be. And I will literally bang that over the head at this point, because again, individuality is so important. We lose that when we depend on trends to identify how we need to show up. We lose that when we don't take the time to separate ourselves, to have quiet time, to spend time alone, to whether it be journal or take a walk, touch some grass, as they will say, because we're losing that. And I'm afraid that not that we're all going to look alike and all become one person, but I'm afraid that overemphasizing on the things that matter externally, I think overemphasizing on those things, they distract us from allowing us to experience like the goodness of God and all who He has created us to be, but also the goodness of what we are literally supposed to be doing on this earth, whether that be our purpose, whether that be our day-to-day. I just feel so passionate about this, and I truthfully don't want to ramble on about it because I think it's very straight to the point, and I want to unpack this conversation. I want to go deeper. I really believe that the end of this year is giving us a lot of opportunity to reflect and get really straight and clear on how we want to show up next year, not in like a resolution way, not in a way where I'm like, okay, I want to complete A, B, C, D by the year 2025. Absolutely not. But thinking of ways that we can continue to grow as people, thinking of ways that we can continue to tap into the better version of who we are from a mindset perspective, and then how that begins to manifest on the outside, right? Or not even like on the outside of us, but how that how we begin to show up on a daily basis is that. And I really do feel that this is going to be a very fruitful experience. I want to spend the remainder of this year gearing up for the new year, gearing up for new year, new me type series. I don't know. We'll figure out the specific like naming. That doesn't matter. But just know and expect to have more conversations like this. Remember that you are already enough. You are already that girl. And listen, I want to hear from you. If there are any specific topics that you are thinking about, or any specific questions that you have and you want me to expand on or to elaborate on, I love to. Like, this is, like I mentioned before, this is so conversational. These are our chit chats. These are our safe places. And this is somewhere where I want you to feel loved and like warm and comforted. I'm not teaching you how to be something that you're not. Like, I'm not here to say like, you're not doing this enough. You need to be better in this area. You need to, like we'll get to that point where I think there are like recommendations, healthy recommendations. But again, I want to hear from you. I want to talk to you. I want to have real conversations, and I want to do this long term. So do not forget to subscribe, to stick around. Weekly uploads on the way. We're going to continue this cadence. We're going to continue this relationship. We're going to keep it going. And lastly, if you feel like this resonates with you, but also someone else in your circle, a friend of yours, a family member, anybody, feel free to share, send them my way. The more the merrier. I love to have these conversations, to continue to unpack. There is more where this came from, y'all. I hope that you continue to have an amazing day. I hope that this message touched you in a way that you really feel open to receiving. Okay. We will be back soon. We will talk more. Until next time, I'll talk to you soon. Bye.